Hey guys, how's it going? This is the Safari Arie Road Show, where we ask questions of Arie here about his bike trip across Canada, across the States, down to the tip of Argentina and South America. So, Arie, how you doing?
Doing awesome. How about you?
I'm doing well. So, you're nearing the border of Ontario and Manitoba, is that correct?
Yes, I'm currently in Fort Francis,
Oh,
about
cool.
260, 70 kilometers to the Manitoba border.
Oh, right on.
Almost done. Almost done.
Okay, so how has Ontario been? What are some
Um,
highlights that you can tell us about?
I mean, in many ways, Ontario has been awesome because
Yep.
Northern Ontario is beautiful. Ontario has been physically a lot tougher than I actually anticipated. Only just the other day did I finally break 100 kilometers in a day. I did 105 kilometers
Right.
on my way to Fort Francis. And I didn't think I was actually going to break 100 kilometers. So
Okay.
it's actually been physically tough. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. Well, it's been very hilly since I left Kingston. The routing that I've taken
Right.
has been extremely hilly. It's just up, down, and then you also have the headwinds.
Oh,
Um, they have not been horrible, but there has been headwinds for sure.
yeah.
And then, of course, even just the heat, I mean,
Right.
I've only had like one day of rain that I've pedaled through, one day of rain
Holy
since
moly.
I've left Kingston. Everything else has been like almost 30 degrees every day. Beautiful temperature, beautiful but
That's
hot.
perfect.
Yeah.
That's perfect. So you mapped this whole journey out well beforehand, right? So like
Yes.
you were a trucker before. Did you take these routes during your trucking or?
Oh no, no,
Oh,
no, 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 no. Well,
okay.
because remember, because of COVID, I bypassed the GTA. I was initially going to do
Right,
the
right,
GTA, and then I went Kingston to North Bay,
right.
and I had no idea how hilly it was, just Kingston to
Oh,
North
yeah.
Bay.
Yeah, that was going to be
And
my
then
question. Yeah.
yeah,
It's
and then
like, was there a
even
way to avoid those hilly things, but it's just something that you like
um,
found out that they were hilly as you were going
well,
through them.
actually, technically there was in one sense because from North Bay I could have gone around and taken Highway 17.
Right.
Um, no, hold on, I'm getting that wrong. Sorry, could have gone north taking Highway 11, but
Okay.
I went across 17, and 17 is much
Oh,
hillier. 11 is
okay.
actually is much flatter,
Yep.
but it's far isolated. And so yes, so I took 17, which is much hillier, all the way to Thunder Bay. But then in Thunder Bay, that's when I jumped on 11 because Highway 11 from Thunder Bay to Fort Francis to Kenora is 70 kilometers longer.
Yeah.
So I took that route because traffic is a fraction of the traffic. Um, uh, and because it is 70 kilometers longer, I'd never been on it. Like in the truck, I've been on 17,
Right.
30, 40 times, but I'd never been on
Holy moly.
11 ever before because it's longer. And
Yeah.
so this was actually my kind of once in a lifetime chance to take Highway 11 from Thunder Bay to Kenora. So that's
Cool.
in part why I did it.
That's pretty cool.
So yeah.
And so you rely pretty heavily on, especially during the harsher seasons, on hosts taking you in for the night and stuff. How many hosts have you stayed with in Ontario?
Well, one small correction. It wasn't relying on the people
Yeah.
during the winter. It was just the complete outpouring of generosity that was,
Right.
just it was like the complete shock. Like that was not
Right.
the expectation or anticipation. It just is what happened. But then, yes, of course, then you get stopped for COVID-19,
Yeah.
and now we're into summer, and it's like so between COVID and summer. What does that mean as far as the potential for hosts?
Mm.
Yes, and the other aspect is that things are obviously very spread out and very isolated through Northern Ontario, so the communities are few and far between.
Right.
So I have had a few hosts, I think about 5 hosts since I left Kingston.
Right.
And one of them was through Warm Showers, which I reached out when I was going through Thunder Bay because I had to get my bike tuned up.
Right.
Everything else has been either people reaching out to me, or I actually had an amazing experience at Kakabeka Falls where
Yeah.
I went to visit those waterfalls. They're actually beautiful. I highly recommend people stop by. Anyways, within a few minutes of arriving there, like less than a minute or two, this family approached me. They saw my bike. So they wanted to know the story. And then I had my Vortman cookies hat on, and they recognized Vortman cookies. And long story short, they had lived in Burlington for a few years. They actually knew my extended relatives, my great uncles, and some of their children.
That's so
and
cool.
within 5 minutes, I was invited to their home for the night.
Wow.
In Kakabeka Falls. And so that was beyond amazing. Just that randomness, it was just crazy. And then right now I'm at a host also that has been following the ride, and she kept reaching out, hey, when you come through, there's a place here. So it's kind of been the same. It's sort of been the same straight through in many ways.
Right.
Yeah.
And where are you right now?
Fort Francis.
Fort Francis. And this host, did you know her before, or is this someone that?
No. So she's just been following the ride.
Wow.
Yeah, she's
so
been following.
Cool.
So, yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, something that I think, Arie, you post a lot about this, like on your own Facebook. But if there's anyone you just happen to know that Arie's coming through your area of town, and you have a warm bed for him at night, just reach out to this guy. He's a nice guy. I know him well.
I try.
You're getting there.
Yeah.
The last question I just want to ask is, you're going into Manitoba. Is there any idea of how your route's going to go once you get there?
Yeah, so that's the thing is because of COVID, my routing is probably going to potentially change a little bit.
Yeah.
I mean, it's still, I don't want to say it's a day by day, but in a way it is a little bit of day by day.
Right.
Right now the Canadian Arctic is closed, and my expectation is the Canadian Arctic is going to remain closed all summer long, which is going to prevent me from getting there. Initially, my plan was to go from Winnipeg to Edmonton. Right now, currently as of today, I think what I want to do is I want to go Winnipeg to Calgary.
Right.
Maybe even drop below the Trans-Canada a little bit, maybe to avoid some traffic. There's a sort of a secondary highway that kind of runs parallel just under the Trans-Canada. The plan is to get to Calgary and then see what is going on with COVID from there. Because what I'm thinking is potentially from Calgary to actually fly to Alaska and to try to get an Arctic run through Alaska.
Cool.
Just recently, they did push the border closure now to July 21st. It will probably be just a little bit after July 20, like it'll probably be the end of July by the time I get to Calgary.
Yep.
And so if they don't push that back, then what I'd like to do is I'd like to see if I can fly to Alaska and then do the Dalton Highway.
Right.
And part of the reason of flying is just because if I'm going to be in Alaska, winter aside, I'd rather be there during the nice weather because, I've been up there, but to be in Alaska is a little bit like once in a lifetime experience. So I'd rather be there during the nice weather so I can really enjoy it. But that's potentially the plan is from Calgary to Alaska. Now, if Alaska is still closed, the U.S. border is still closed, then I will just continue to Vancouver because there's not much options beyond that.
Right. And
so I will continue to Vancouver. And I have to assume by the time I get to Vancouver, the U.S. border will be open by then.
Yeah.
Now at that stage, by the time I get to Vancouver, then probably the plan will just be going to Washington, and I'll deal with the Arctic when I get to the bottom of Argentina and just see logistically what are the possibilities. But yeah, COVID is completely out of my hands. All I can do is just sort of keep pedaling. And so that's sort of the plan, but potentially changes day by day.
That's so cool. Well, I'm excited. I'm always excited to see you moving on to the next province or whatever it is. My wife and I are always looking on the map. Like, she's like, "Where's Arie today?"
Yeah.
Showing her is pretty cool.
Ontario is a massive, massive province. Even just from Burlington to the Manitoba border in a truck, it would take me 2 days of driving just to get out of Ontario by a vehicle.
That's insane. Yeah.
So it's a huge province. Huge.
And you're going uphill most times.
There was, I've had, in recent weeks, I've had 2 days where I did, I think, 1,000 meters of climbing in a day. The hills have been.
When I hear the other provinces are pretty flat, so hopefully You run into some of those.
Yeah.
All right, guys. This has been the Safari Arie Road Show. Thank you, Ari, for stopping by and giving us a little update, and keep us updated.
Yes, for sure.
Thank
Awesome.
you, sir. Take
Yep.
care.